Hello and welcome to the Providence College Podcast. I'm your host, Liz Kay, and I'm joined by producer Chris Judge of the class of 2005. Here at the Providence College Podcast, we bring you interesting stories from the Fryer family. This week, we're speaking with Dana Lowney, a senior biology major and a member of the women's cross-country team from Southeastern Massachusetts. In February, she graduated at the top of her class from a certified nursing assistant training program, and the next month, the pandemic struck. In April, Lowney began working at an assisted living facility full-time while continuing to take classes remotely. Dana, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we've all heard so much about how the coronavirus has impacted life in nursing homes and senior communities. What are your shifts like now in the summer?
So during the summer, I usually work the 3 to 11 shift, and I've been doing that pretty much every day that I can. It's kind of just going in, helping the residents with their activities of daily living. As a CNA working in assisted living, it's also my responsibility to help pass meds. So we have like all of their med times and everything, and it's my responsibility to get them their medication and make sure that they take it on time, and make sure that everything's basically all set in their room.
Now, what motivated you to become a CNA while you were still a student in the first place?
So I want to go to physician's assistant school, which is a master's program. But in order to do that, you need up to 2,000 hours of direct patient care experience. And so, when I was looking at the best way to get that experience, CNA was like the top one that they recommended. So I got my certification back over winter break. And now I'm using that certification to work in assisted living and achieve those hours that I need. So I'm on my way, but I have a lot to go. But
when did you originally expect you'd start using your license?
I did not expect it would be this soon. I definitely thought, during the summer I wanted a job that I could use the certification, but I did not think that I would be starting in April. Obviously, I thought I was still going to be in school, taking classes, running, just kind of being back in college. So I was not expecting to kind of get a job this early and start my work. But, life happens and you just got to go with it.
So how did that come about? Did you get recruited or did you recognize the need?
I originally thought that I wanted to work in a hospital. But the more that I looked at it, the more I felt like I wasn't really ready to work in a hospital yet. I felt like that was kind of a lot for me to do finally having my certification. I thought maybe I wanted to start somewhere a little bit more, not so much more relaxed, but not like, especially during this pandemic, I was nervous. That's what it was to work in a hospital. So I feel like I do well with older people. So I looked at nursing homes and assisted living facilities, and I found this one in Canton, and it looked really nice. I read reviews. I looked at the directors and everything, and I just felt immediately comfortable looking at that place. So I applied, and then they called me back immediately saying that I could go in for an interview. So they really, I think, they were looking for people, especially now during the pandemic. I think they really needed the help. So very happy.
And so how did you balance your work with classes?
Luckily, my professors kind of made online classes pretty manageable. So a lot of it was, getting assignments done in a certain amount of time. So it's not like I had to go to every lecture. You know what I mean? Like they didn't cancel a lot of them, but a lot of it was transitioned to doing assignments that would be due in like a week. So I kind of like during work, I could go to work and then come back the next day and then just kind of work on the assignments as they came. And my professors were very, very understanding. I emailed them all the time saying, I'm working, I just got a job in an assisted living facility. I don't know if I'll be able to like finish this assignment on time because they called me in for work, and they were very, very understanding about it. So for me, it wasn't that difficult to manage the workload, but that's because my professors made online classes so manageable for me. So it's pretty good.
I'm curious about some of the things you might have learned during the pandemic and how it's affecting patients and their families.
So I think for me, more so, I saw like the psychological, emotional effects of it. There were a couple cases where I worked, but that was kind of more towards the beginning. And the place where I worked did a really, really good job of managing the outbreaks and everything. But the worst part, I think, was that the residents were not allowed to leave their rooms. Like they were all like quarantined by themselves in their room. And for an older person, I think that's really hard on them just because they kind of thrive in like social environments and like talking to each other and seeing their families. And for a while, they were just stuck in their rooms, not able to do anything. So a lot of the times I would be their only social interaction. And like, you could just tell that they were looking just for someone to talk to, just, to like just talk about their day. So I think for me, that was the hardest part, just seeing everybody so sad inside of their rooms, not able to get out or like do anything, see their families. For a while, they couldn't see anyone. And then after a while, we started to do window visits. So they could see their family, but it was only through a window. So it's still not the same. And you could just tell like how much of an effect that was having on them emotionally, just kind of being in their rooms all day, like not doing anything. So for me, that's what I saw the most for them.
And you started after this crisis began, but typically they'd have social activities. They'd be able to gather.
There are so many activities, people working there that would get them up. They have games, they watch movies. There's a movie theater, there's a pub that they could go to, there's an outdoor patio. A lot of the times they would be taken, places in the van to like get ice cream and go on visits to museums. But then when I started working there, I didn't see any of that. Like the only experience I've had basically so far in this facility is everybody just in their rooms, kind of just watching TV, doing their own thing, which is really, really tough. Now it's getting a little bit better. They're starting to let, like maybe 10 residents per activity, but it's still not the same. They're getting there, but it's not the same still. And like, it's just hard because one resident might want to go to one activity and they can't just because there are too many people there. So it's better than it was when I first got there, but it's still not the same. So I think they're really missing the social interactions and especially seeing their families.
And during your training, did you go over things like how to use PPE and how to...
That was one of the big things. I also, in my CNA class, that was a big thing. We got tested on wearing PPE and how to put it on and take it off properly. There were a couple instances where I had to put it on just if like a resident was on precautions and I had to go do their care. I would have to put, the gown, the booties, the goggles, the mask, the N95 mask. And I had no idea how to, like, the masks, like I had to wear 2 of them at once. And it's a lot. I was scared at first, but then, you kind of have to trust what you've learned and trust the facility that they know what they're doing. And so, I had to put it on a couple times, but I feel better about it now. I was really nervous to wear it at first, but now, I feel like I'm kind of used to it and putting it on and everything and making sure that you take it off the right way without, contaminating yourself. So, but yeah. I wish I had a picture of it, but I don't.
And how do you feel about wearing a mask in your other day-to-day activities?
It doesn't really bother me that much. I definitely got used to it because I have to wear it for 8 hours during my shifts. The only thing that I kind of struggle with is a lot of the residents can't hear that well. And I can't take the mask off when I'm with them. So it's kind of me just like screaming at them and I feel kind of bad about it, but I'm definitely getting used to it. It's not so much of an issue for me anymore. And I think a lot of people are getting used to it as well. Just like it's something that you have to do just to be sure that you're not going to get anyone else sick.
And this population's so vulnerable, right?
Right. And they're so vulnerable. And they understand it too. They're not allowed out of their rooms without wearing a mask either. So the facility is very good about keeping people safe. So
we're all preparing to head back to Friartown. And there are a lot of debates about what individuals could be doing to stop spread in their communities. What would you like some people who are questioning the value of some of these precautions to know?
I would just, I usually just think about like my family, my friends, like I wouldn't want any of them to get sick. I think that if you think about it like that, like you could be doing so much to prevent someone that you love from getting sick. You would just, for me, I don't see why you wouldn't just do that for everyone year round, especially the mask. Like it's a little thing you have to do. I know it could be annoying at first, but it can go a long way in stopping the spread of the virus. Kind of just keeping your distance from people. Like I know people are going to want to go out to parties and stuff and just kind of be around each other. But at the same time, you have to think about like, would you want somebody doing this to your family or like your friends? You know what I mean? Just kind of like thinking about it like that and thinking about just the little things you can do can make a really big difference. So I think it's going to be hard for people at first, but if we do go back, which I think we will, I hope we do, I think that people will really get used to it and kind of see just the little things that they can do can have a big difference on the impact it can have on someone else. So
one of the biggest parts of your college experience is your athletic activities. As a member of the track and cross country program, how do you feel about the way the pandemic impacted the this season last year?
It was really, really upsetting to me. It was so crazy how fast everything happened because I was in North Carolina with my friend for spring break. And then all of a sudden we got a text from our coaches saying that our spring track season had gotten canceled. And we had just come back from winter. Everybody did really well in the winter season. So everyone was kind of excited to get back into it. So it was really, really upsetting to me, especially seeing all the other sports that got canceled as well. And especially for the seniors last year, how sad that was for them. And basketball, hockey, it was really, really sad. And so now I'm looking at cross country thinking, I don't know if this is going to happen or not. I know I have trust my coaches that they're going to make the right decision in the Big East. So for right now, I'm training as if I have a season coming up. That's what my coaches want. So we have a schedule. I'm training as if, nothing ever happened, just hoping that maybe we can at least get a couple meets in. But I'm not sure what's going to happen. I miss my friends. I hate running by myself. So I will be very upset if we don't have it. So it's been a huge struggle just not knowing if we're going to have a cross country season. I'm hoping, I don't have to think about winter and spring track right now, but for cross country, I know that's the one coming up. And I know a couple other conferences have already canceled their fall sports. And I'm just hoping that somehow the Big East can find a way to just have safe competition, but, still compete with everyone. And I'm hoping, I don't know, I'm going to be really sad if they cancel it. So that was a really, really upsetting for me and for my friends.
Totally understandable. I mean, the spring was definitely full of disappointments that nobody could have helped. But so what does your training look like now? I mean, you're running alone.
I am running alone, which is very hard. So I have usually 2 workouts a week. And then other than that, it's anywhere between 4 to 8 miles that I'll do. My coach is very understanding about my work. I've told her I work a lot of 3 to 11 shifts. Sometimes I go into the 7 to 3 shift right after that. So I don't have much time to sleep. And she's been very understanding. She's like, if you have to move a workout to kind of work around work, that's completely fine. And I'll always text her updating her about everything. And she's really, really understanding about my schedule and everything like that. And she always just checks in to make sure that I'm doing okay. I have had to miss a couple team meetings for work. But my coaches, all 3 of them are very understanding with that. And, I'll just text my teammate and she'll keep me updated with everything. So right now it's pretty hard. Just, running by yourself is hard. I'm used to running with my teammates and everything. So just finding the motivation when you don't really know what's going to happen is really, really difficult. So more emotional and psychological than physical, I think. But
and so you're thinking about physician assistantship in your future. I'm curious if there's anything that surprised you about this sort of hands-on experience that you've had so far, we've learned about.
Not so much surprised by anything, but I just get very emotional when I work. I was talking to one resident and she was telling me about her husband who had passed away, and I just immediately started crying. And I know that that's my type of personality, just to get very emotional and kind of close to people. So I think that could help me a lot when it comes to being a physician's assistant, but it could also, kind of get in the way of things if I'm just crying when people are telling me their problems. But I am surprised at how much people really care about the work that you do and how thankful they are. They're telling me I'll be helping them with something. They're like, God sent you to me. And it's so sweet. So I am kind of surprised by that. And maybe it's just the place where I'm working with older people, but they're so grateful for a lot of the things that I do for them. And I feel when you hear stories about doctors and stuff like that, you have people who yell and who kind of just seem like they don't really care what you do. But especially where I work, I couldn't ask for a better place to work. The residents are so nice, and they really do care about the work that you do for them and the care that you give them. So that kind of surprised me that I was going to be meeting this many nice people who really cared about and were really thankful for the work that I do. So I guess that kind of surprised me. But, in the future, I'm not really sure. You're going to meet a lot of people that are different and, kind of act differently towards you. So I'm kind of just preparing for everything. But this really helped me kind of see what patient experience is and how to care for someone. So
I'm sure they really appreciate your empathy.
They do.
And are you thinking that you'd want to work with this patient population in the future? Would you like to work with seniors?
I was thinking about that. I my parents are like, are you sure you don't want to work with kids? But I was like, I'm so much better at talking to older people, I think. So it might be. I don't know. I think about my grandparents. I think about people like that and just how nice everyone is in the place where I work. I think that I would do better working with older people, but I'm not really sure yet. I feel like I have time to think about it, but I would be so happy working with older people. I just feel like I get along with them better than kids. So we'll see. We'll see.
It's always helpful when patients can tell you what hurts and where and, what they've been doing.
Yes.
Well, Dina, it's been so lovely chatting with you. Thank you so much, and thank you for the work you're doing with your patients.
Thank you so much for having me.
Subscribe to the Providence College podcast in all the usual places, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify. If you like what you hear, please review and share with others. Thanks for listening, and go Friars.